Today on CityCast Chicago, we not even going to try to power rank all of Chicago's iconic foods, but we will focus in on the sandwiches. It's Wednesday, June 18th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I'm here with Axios reporter Monica Eng. Monica, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
You was out at the James Beard Awards earlier, so we appreciate you making time for little old CityCast Chicago. You big time out here when we talking about food awards.
I just stayed up all night so that I could talk to you.
Monica is also the co-author of Made in Chicago, Stories Behind 30 Great Hometown Bites. So she knows a thing or two about Chicago food. And Monica, one of the things I noticed when I first read through the book and as I was going back through it is how many of these classic Chicago dishes are Sammys, right? Good old sandwiches. So why does Chicago have so many iconic ones?
Because, well, as you probably know, a lot of these were invented on the South Side. Why on the South Side? Because a lot of chains have disinvested from the South Side. And so you have independent operators out there who can say, you know what? I bet this would be good with this. Oh, and my customers like it. They don't have to call headquarters in Denver, Colorado and say, can we serve this? They say, I'm making it on the spot. I got this stuff. The people like it. And so ingenuity can flow. But in general, Chicago, we got the meats. We got some bread hanging around, and so we make a sandwich.
So I've got a list of 8 sandwiches. And as we go through this, y'all, we're not talking about like your favorite chicken sandwich or your favorite banh mi or po' boy, right? We're talking about these iconic Chicago sandwiches that you can find in some restaurants across the city. And so I'm going to name a sandwich, and I want you to give me your ranking, number 1 being at the top of the list, number 8 being at the bottom. And it can be based on what you like the best or which one has your favorite story. It's entirely up to you. All right?
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Starting out the gate, the sweetsteak, right? This is chopped steak, maybe some sweet sauce, some big tomatoes, some sweet peppers, usually on like French or Italian bread. Where would you rank the sweetsteak?
Okay, we're going 1 to 8. Sorry to say, sweetsteak is at number 7.
Number 7. Oh, my Lord. Our rankings are so different.
It's a fascinating sandwich, no doubt. And it's got an incredible story behind it. Ed Perkins came back from, I believe, the Korean War or World War II. I believe Korean War. And then he met up with some pals in Philly. He noticed his pal in Philly had an ice cream shop and a Philly cheesesteak shop. He came back to Chicago and said, I want to make a version of this here. And so he thought and thought and thought, and he had his tourist flavors restaurants. And he said, okay, our version is going to be like the Philly cheesesteak, but I'm going to add that kind of neon green relish with some spicy peppers and dunk the whole thing in mild sauce. I love this story. I love that his kids kept it open, and then the crash and the final tourist flavors location, and yet people still loved it so much. They were still serving it, even though it had like a big hole in the front of their building. I really hope that tourist flavors comes back. For now, you get it at home with a hoagie. I think it's a terrific story that blends so much of Chicago. I mean, they even steam the hoagie roll. Like, who else steams their rolls besides Chicago on the hot dog? And then the relish feels very Chicago. The mild sauce, obviously, very Chicago. But I just found it so intensely sweet. I was like, oh. But I will say, after I took that intensely sweet bite, and I was like, I can't do anymore. What did I do? I just kept coming back for more.
I had to get some cheese on it. I mean, you can get it at Haley's Hoagies, home of the hoagie. I don't know. For me, this is typically swapping somewhere in the top 3. It's very filling. It's very overwhelming. But the taste is so, like, I appreciate how sweet it is. It's a good bite from start to finish. And I can't believe that you're starting out with this. You say number... Was this
number 7? And okay, and here, my confession, I love bitter things, and I really have an aversion to sweet things. So take it with a grain of salt. And how long did you wait for your sweet steak?
It's somewhere between like 30 and 45 minutes.
Okay, I was an hour, and actually, so I developed a real hankering for it. I was hungry for anything, but I loved how like calm everyone is. It's like, guess what? It's worth it. So I'm going to wait that long.
This is what it is. All right. I'm going to put this at number 2 on my list.
Okay.
All right. So next up, we got the Italian beef. It's so simple, right? It's bread, sliced meat, however you like your peppers, sweet, hot, dipped, maybe some cheese on it. Where are you putting the Italian beef? There's a lot of just like meat, cheese, and a steamed roll on this list.
Yeah, exactly. I've got it at number 3. Depending on where you get it, because, there are good ones and then there are bad ones. And there are ones that are well spiced and ones that are not. Ones that have lots of fat in the gravy, which I love, and ones that don't. Ones that have good giardiniera and some that I don't really dig their giardiniera. This whole cheese thing feels like a last decade addition that I'm not sure I approve of, but...
Where's your favorite one at?
I really like, I was doing some TV appearance for Italian Beef Day in this place called Franny's out on River Road, I want to say.
Franny's Beef in Schiller Park.
Yep, there you go. Fantastic. And I didn't realize they were like an institution out there. JP Graziano does a great one. Johnny's, of course, in Elmwood Park. And Elle's, Elle's is pretty good. Although, I miss the peppers in the giardiniera. It's mostly celery there. So how about you?
I do like Johnny's. I'm not a huge fan of the Italian beef, if I'm being honest. So for me, this is number 6 on the list. I'm a big sauce person. I like my pizza a little extra greasy. I like my wings with extra sauce. I like my sweet steak with sauce. And for me, the gravy, the beef, the peppers, it doesn't hit all of the notes for me in the same way.
Maybe add some mild sauce to it.
You can always throw some mild sauce on it. The Italian beef in many ways has become like a iconic Chicago staple, not just in the city, but something the city is known for. Like, again, for it just being a sandwich with meat, some giardiniera, why has it stood out? What in its story and its history has like pushed it to the forefront?
Well, I mean, it used to be very affordable. You could be, beef sandwiches could sometimes be a little pricey, but because it's so thin and because they add in that juice that kind of makes you feel like you're eating meat because it's bread soaked with meat sauce. But now, it's starting to get up there in price with a lot of the other ones. And I just think it was a big staple in Italian neighborhoods. It's funny, my ex-husband is a Italian New Yorker, and he's like, Italian beef? What did this come from? This is not Italian. And of course, Italians are like, I've never heard of this either. But it's a Chicago thing. And when it's good, it's really good. But there are some bad ones.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. Have you ever picked a vacation spot based on where you won't need a phrase book? With Babbel, the language barrier no longer has to hold you back. You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based techniques, which quickly teach you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. Babbel has more than a dozen languages available for you to learn at your own pace, with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. What I really love about learning Spanish with Babbel is that it works with me where I am. The app and the website keep track of what I've learned. They help me review what I probably forgot from last time, and always is keeping me engaged with a new challenge based on actual conversations I might have in Spain or Mexico or Colombia. Especially food conversations, because I love food conversations. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to give you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast, spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
All right, the next one on the list is really a combo sandwich. It's the gym shoe, corned beef, roast beef, and gyro meat, or gyro meat, as you would say. Yeah. Is that correct? Is that the combination? What else is on the gym shoe?
Sometimes they put tzatziki, but don't say tzatziki. Say gyro sauce, or else you will not get that white garlicky sauce.
Get your gyro, no tzatziki. At your head, no Medusa, Deuce. That's all I think of. I just think of Chief Keef when I think of tzatziki sauce. Just get your gyro, no tzatziki. What a bar. What a bar. For me, I'm going to come out the gate and just say, for me, the gym shoe is number 8 on my list. It's just, it's the most overwhelming sandwich on the list. But for you, where does this rank and how did it come into being?
Okay, I have number 6. So there's a guy named Peter Engler, who's a University of Chicago trained geneticist, who's also an obsessive when it comes to South Side dishes. And he went far and near, just from every single place that served the gym shoe, to ask where it came from. And finally, there was a guy he was talking to through the plexiglass, and then a waiter, one of his cooks pokes the manager on the shoulder and says, I know, I'm going to tell him where it came from. I said, I'm finally going to find out. And he said, well, where does it come from? And the guy says, it comes from the mind. So it doesn't mean their brain's in there. The first time it showed up on sandwich shops on the South Side was around mid-'80s, according to Engler. So it's still a mystery where the gym shoe comes from. I think you're right. It can be very overwhelming. So I put it at 6. But if you want to have a fun party, you get the super crispy gym shoe. And you ask them to take all those ingredients, the onions, the giardiniera, the crispy bits of meat that they've chopped up on the griddle, and you put it in a giant flour tortilla. You roll it up gingerly, seal it tight with a little bit of egg, gingerly lower it into your deep fryer, and you get this enormous egg roll with so much flavor.
Fried gym shoe burrito?
Yeah.
What are they doing that at?
Well, most places, it's like a secret thing. If they're not too busy, they will do it for you. So I got a super crispy gym shoe once, and holy cow, was that a lot of flavor.
Where you get it, though?
I think it was Stony Sub that did it for me.
Okay. I could see Stony Sub doing that. We just talked about them recently. We was talking 24-hour restaurants, but I can 100% see them doing that. And again, in theory, the idea of, because I like a good bacon cheeseburger, right? Or I like a chicken steak bowl. Like, I don't mind mixing things together, but I'm not a huge fan of corned beef and roast beef to begin with. And gyro isn't in the top 4 of my sandwiches, but that is the one we are talking about next. The gyro. This feels about, at least for me, about as Chicago as it gets. I can't remember a time where people wasn't getting gyros. I just can't remember a time where I didn't walk into like a Nicky's or something and it wasn't on the menu, and to a Stony Sub. It's on almost every sort of local neighborhood restaurant's menu at this point. Can you describe the classic Chicago gyro?
Sure. Well, so you're going to want meat that's been nicely roasted on that spit. And then sometimes they'll even slice it off and then crisp it up even more. And then a beautifully toasted, griddle toasted Greek pita, which is different from Middle Eastern pita. This is sort of spongier, thicker, but it should have a nice toast on it. Then you nestle that in the hot, crispy pita, and then you put on some sharp onions, some tzatziki or gyro sauce, a nice ripe piece of tomato, and of course you're going to want some fries in the basket under that. And that's the perfect gyros. When it's done well, I think it is such a thing of beauty. When it's done poorly, not so much. But Chicago is, you're right, if you're under 56, 58 years old, you probably don't know a time when it wasn't in every corner spot. But Chicago, the reason why we have all the factories here is because we're the ones who made the mass-produced uniform cone of gyros that could be sent out to all parts of the country because it was pre-cooked in this like pressure cooker that after you pour basically a meat milkshake into the cone and then pressure cook it, then you can send it out safely everywhere.
And that's typically what, like lamb?
Actually, mostly beef, a little bit of lamb. Do you know what gyros are made out of in Greece?
No.
Pork. It's a pork product in Greece. But in Chicago, we had a lot of beef. We had a lot of beef scraps, and they added a little bit of lamb and then garlic and a bunch of other seasonings and some fat in there. And we've got the uniform one with uniform seasoning throughout because it's all ground up.
Now, I know there's some people listening who, this is a dish that's gone from Istanbul to Athens to different parts of the country. But it's interesting that Chicago's, like, it's deepest connection to Chicago is like this industrial side of the coin. I did not know that.
Yeah, we're the ones who allowed it to go to like, Decatur, Illinois, and everybody can have it because you no longer had to like hand pack it, which is what everyone did. It became sort of a meat health hazard because it took a long time and you couldn't refrigerate it the whole time. Anyway, they're the ones who made it safe.
Yeah, my preference is a chicken gyro, but for a straight up classic gyro, where does this fall on your ranking?
I've got it at number 2. Maybe it's nostalgia from my childhood, but I have a lot of very fond gyros memories as a child.
Number 2.
When done well.
All right, let me see. Where are we at so far? You've got the sweet steak at number 7. You got the Italian beef at number 3. You got the gym shoe at 6. You got the gyro at 2. I got the gym shoe at 8. The Italian beef at 6. The sweet steak at 2. I think this might be my 3.
Okay.
The gyro is my number 3. So far, this is our
closest match.
This is our closest match. We got 4 more to go.
4 more.
Next up on the list is the jibarito.
Number 1, ding, 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 ding.
Number 1, ding, 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 ding. And I'm a recent convert to the jibarito at number 1 on the Sammy Power ranking. Sweet steak coming into the podcast would have been my number 1. I wouldn't have even known to put the jibarito up here. But since having it a couple of years ago with the homie Pinky out in Humboldt Park,
I heard that one. It was great.
Yeah, it has stuck in my soul. Sliced steak, flattened and fried plantains as your breading. You've
tomato,
got crisp
American
lettuce,
cheese, mayo.
tomato, American cheese, mayo, some garlic aioli. Monica, what's the story of the jibarito?
Well, a guy named Peter Figueroa was in his place in Humboldt Park, and his place was not doing well. He was reading a newspaper called El Vocero in the morning, and he saw a recipe for something called a sándwich de plátano, which means a plantain sandwich. His dad said, give it a try, bring it out to me. His dad was bankrolling the place. And he gave it to his dad. His dad said, this is delicious, put it on the menu. I'm going to Puerto Rico for my yearly vacation. When he came back, it was a hit. And then people started copying him. He had this huge hit with the jibarito. And jibaro is like, it's like saying hillbilly. It's not nice sometimes. But I said, well, why did you name it that? He said, because I am a jibaro from Puerto Rico. And he said, I am proud of it. Anyway, poor Peter, he ended up not being able to keep his restaurants. But he did bring something delicious to Chicago. Now it's even served in Puerto Rico. And I love it because when I was a kid growing up, my Puerto Rican grandmother, she would have like 1 green plantain and 4 of us had to share the tostones and each of us would get 1 and we had to share them. And now I'm like, it can be the bread on my sandwich. This is like a dream come true. And when it's hot, when it's delicious, when it's made well, it's a mess, but it's totally the best sandwich in Chicago for me.
Yeah, I really like the one from Papa's off of Western and Division. It's close to like Campbell, but Western Division is the main intersection. All right, so we got the number 1s out the way, so we can kind of fly through these last couple. Pork chop sandwich. It's simple, straight to the point. Pork chop Sammy. Where's the pork chop sandwich fall on your list?
I've got it at number 4, when done well, because I've had some dry ones. I've never broken a tooth. But that's always a possibility because this is bone-in. It's always a possibility. But Jim's or Express, they probably do them equally well. Now that they're paying more attention to keeping that meat juicy, I love it for its sort of like, hey, take me as I am. I'm going to keep a bone in here, and I'm
Exactly.
simple. And the fact that Jim's is always so freaking delicious and fast, and the fries are good. It's I'll get the Polish usually, but when I get the pork chop sandwich, I'm delighted that they're now really taking care to make sure it's juicy.
Nah, I'm gonna stick with you. Number 4 on my list as well. When done well, it's just good. And my mom always would do a good pork chop, and so the next day we would throw that between 2 pieces of bread if there was some leftover. So the homemade pork chop was busting for us as well. Speaking of mothers, we got the mother-in-law. This is, at first glance, you might think, oh, that's just a chili dog inside of that hot dog bun. But underneath that chili is a cornrow tamale. Again, y'all put me on this. I wasn't really familiar with these growing up. Where's the mother-in-law fall on your list?
8.
And did you eat these coming up?
I did not eat these coming up. I did eat Tom Tom tamales coming up because I loved how cheap they were. It's like, oh, look at this. I can get my own snack with my allowance, 10 cents. But it's 8. I'm sorry, carbs don't belong on carbs. And when your eyeballs see a steamed poppy seed bun and some onions and a sport pepper and then chili, you're looking for that snap of the dog in there. And then you get gush of a tamal. Not so crazy about that.
For me, I'm going to put this one at number 7 on my list. Right above the gym shoe, too much meats, cornrow tamale. I agree with you. I just prefer it to be a chili dog, but it is fire. No shot to the mother-in-law. I do think it's good, but I'd prefer that to just go and be a chili dog. And then last on the list is the pepper and egg sandwich.
Number 5.
Number 5 on your list. And I think it's also number 5 on mine.
All right. Air high five.
Come on, we got a couple that match.
Again, when done well with really good, scrambled eggs that are properly seasoned and good jardinera and good sweet peppers. I used to get this for breakfast when I would work at Navy Pier and I would go to the Billy Goat. I thought it was a delicious breakfast. Again, dried out scrambled eggs, not good peppers, no jardinera, old roll, But, for people who are, we don't have a lot of vegetarian choices in Chicago sandwiches. And so this, I think, deserves a lot of kudos.
No, this goes back to like Catholic tradition. A lot of people eat this during Lent. My grandmother would make this. It also just reminds me of like a good egg and pepper taco. It's easy to make at the crib. It feels like of a lot of these sandwiches, this one feels like the perfect after drinking sandwich to kind of soak up a lot of that, kind of help you get off right the next day. But I could see, again, the best Italian beef I could see coming up for me from 6 to 5. But I always think about the worst one. And I think the worst Italian beef is probably, I don't know, is that worse than the worst pepper and egg sandwich?
It's hard to
that's
know.
a debate, right?
Yeah.
I might swap those, but hey, I think it's, again, I can make it at the crib and it be banging. Monica, you mentioned earlier when you was talking about the pork chop sandwich, usually if you pull up on like an Express or a Maxwell's, you might get the pork chop sandwich, but you might get the Polish. I know it's a lot of people listening who be like, y'all ain't talking about the Chicago hot dog. Y'all ain't talking about the Maxwell Street Polish. Like, should that technically be on our list of power ranking sandwiches?
I think so, because the bun is a different shape. I mean, the jibarito bun is a different shape. You shouldn't discount it. And I would put the Polish at maybe at number 2. I mean, a good Polish, fast, juicy, garlicky, smoky, with those wonderful caramelized onions, and then the hot pepper, and then the yellow mustard. Oh my gosh, it's a thing of beauty.
That jump into number 3 for me immediately.
Yeah.
Give me a jibarito, a sweet steak, and a well-done Polish. I'm with you. I think that should be on our power ranking sandwiches list. But because I didn't want to give no love to the Chicago hot dog, Polishes unfortunately took the slight as well. And so maybe next time, but at least y'all know it would have cracked the top 3 for both of us had it been on there. Monica, I appreciate you for making time for CityCast Chicago, for power ranking some foods. Y'all, please check out Made in Chicago, Stories Behind 30 Great Hometown Bites. I will drop a link in the show notes. Monica, till next time, my friend.
Thanks so much. I want to put out one shout out for the chicken Polish that Jim's has introduced. So for those not eating pork or beef, it's delish. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Before we get out of here, some good news. I mentioned earlier, Monica covered the James Beard Awards earlier this week, which were hosted in the city down at the Lyric Opera House. Shout out to Kamiko, which won Outstanding Bar. I pulled up on them earlier this year. All of the servers and bartenders were absolutely fantastic. Shout out to Noah Sandoval from Oriole for winning Best Chef Great Lakes. And remember, Lim's Barbecue won earlier this year, named a 2025 American Classic. But hey, I don't really know who this James Beard guy is. I want to hear from y'all, the CityCast Chicago listeners. What was your most outstanding bar in the city over the last year? Who was your favorite chef? Let us know at 773-780-0246. We are off tomorrow, but we're back on Friday with a very special episode. Every single CityCast host is going to be in the building, but then we will be back on Monday. Since this is our last traditional episode of the week, I want to give a huge shout out to all of the people who make CityCast Chicago possible. Our executive producer is Simone Alicea. Our producer is Michelle Navarro. Our Hey Chicago newsletter editor is Emmy Mack. Roving producer producers this week were Francisco Kilgore and Natalie Rivera. Our social media manager is Rick Homuth. The music we all love is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. Additional music this week from Carl Christensen, as well as Hip Color, courtesy of EpidemicSound.com. Again, we are off tomorrow, but you're going to hear me along with all of the CityCast hosts on Friday. Then we'll be back on Monday, bright and early. I'm going to talk to you then. Peace.